Welcome, everyone. Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really classic narrative of survival, loyalty, and that absolutely terrifying concept of venturing into the unknown. We're looking at a story about a boy, his dog, and a totally ordinary walk that suddenly turns into a pretty intense psychological test. I mean, what actually happens when the familiar world just vanishes? How does the mind react? And more importantly, what pulls us back to reality? Let's break down the actual mechanics of fear and faithful companionship.
So, when the path disappears, who guides you? Seriously, take a second to think about that. How do you react when you're faced with unexpected darkness or a situation where your usual way forward is just suddenly gone? To explore this, because it's a super universal human experience, we're going to follow our young protagonist, Rahul, into the forest. We'll examine exactly what happens when a totally routine journey transforms into a disorienting trap. To really grasp this, we have to look at the unknown, not just as some abstract philosophical idea, but as a literal, physical place. It starts out innocently enough, right? A boy named Rahul and his beloved dog, Tommy, just wandering into the woods. But as they venture deeper, the whole environment abruptly shifts. The familiar markers fade away, the path totally disappears, and an innocent stroll suddenly crosses the border into the unknown realm. Okay, let's dive into this and look at the specific elements that triggered his panic. We are talking about a severe sensory overload here. First up, you have these big, looming trees. They stop being mere plants and become these massive walls, completely isolating him from the world he knows. Next, you've got unexplained, strange sounds echoing all around him. And, when you can't see the source of a noise, the human brain instinctively assumes the absolute worst. Finally, dense thickets and bushes create this gripping, inescapable claustrophobia. It's this precise combination, the physical isolation, the eerie acoustics, and restricted movement that triggers pure, overwhelming panic in Rahul. Now, as Rahul stands there completely paralyzed, something else happens, something entirely psychological. The physical darkness of the forest acts as a blank canvas for the mind. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a movie projector. We transition from a physical state of being lost into a psychological state of terror. Those creepy, unexplained sounds of the woods begin to warp in Rahul's mind, connecting to his deepest, most primal fears. This is exactly where the mind actively amplifies fear, projecting supernatural imagery right onto the natural world. Our sources introduce a really fascinating concept for this, the Boot cartoon, which translates to the specter's animated realm. Think of this as the physical manifestation of psychological dread. When you're lost among strange sounds and darkness, your mind literally starts drawing its own terrifying pictures. Those rustling leaves aren't just leaves anymore, right? They become monsters. The shadows aren't just the absence of light, they're lurking entities. This is the absolute peak of Rahul's fear. He isn't just fighting the forest anymore, he is fighting his own mind.
But right at the peak of this paralyzing fear, the narrative pulls a huge pivot. Enter Tommy. While Rahul is trapped in this psychological nightmare, his dog is experiencing the exact same physical environment. But guess what? Tommy doesn't panic, not even a little bit. He steps up as a brave, faithful guardian and totally shifts our focus from the mechanics of fear over to the mechanics of rescue and loyalty.
This dynamic brilliantly illustrates our core theme, and you can see the stark contrast here. On one hand, you've got Rahul, completely frozen by his imagination in the dark forest. On the other, Tommy displays absolute, unwavering bravery. They are in the exact same environment, hearing the exact same sounds, surrounded by the exact same looming trees, yet their perspectives dictate entirely different realities. It's such a powerful reminder that the unknown is only terrifying if you let it defeat your senses.
So, Tommy doesn't just sit there. He initiates an active rescue. First, he lets out a reassuring bark. Before he even tries to solve the physical problem of being lost, he solves the psychological one. He cuts right through Rahul's illusions and anchors him firmly back to reality. Next, canine intuition takes over. And fun fact, to put this into perspective, a dog's sense of smell is up to 100,000 times more acute than ours. So Tommy isn't just sniffing the dirt. He is literally reading a map that is completely invisible to humans. Catching a familiar scent, he begins to run forward, cutting through those dense thickets, actively combating supernatural dread with pure biological precision.
And that brings us to the absolute turning point for our human protagonist. Following that scent to safety requires a massive leap of faith from Rahul. He has to stop listening to his own amplified fears, quiet his mind, and start trusting his brave guardian. And he does. Rahul follows closely behind Tommy, navigating the dark thickets together. Trusting Tommy's intelligence and loyalty over his own panic is literally what saves him, eventually guiding them out of those strange sounds and securely back toward their village.
Having escaped the physical danger of the forest, the narrative naturally shifts toward its enduring takeaway. Because, the story isn't just about a boy and a dog finding their way out of some trees, it's a much deeper lesson about the very nature of companionship and survival. Thanks to Tommy, Rahul made it out safely. But what did he actually learn from surviving the unknown? It all boils down to this. A faithful friend is life's greatest asset. It's simple, but it is profoundly true. Rahul realized that day that a true friend never, ever abandons you when things get dark. When the world became scary and unfamiliar, Tommy didn't just bail and run away to save himself. He stayed, he comforted, and he guided. Loyalty and intelligence are the true lights in the dark, and having a faithful companion is just invaluable when your path disappears.
As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final, totally crucial thought. In your darkest forest, who is your faithful guardian? Because let's face it, we all have our own dark forests, those moments in life where we feel completely lost, surrounded by intimidating challenges, and our minds just conjure up the worst possible outcomes. Think about who stands by your side with unwavering courage, offering that reassuring presence to guide you back to safety. Identify those loyal guides in your life and make sure you value them. Thanks so much for joining me today. Never stop learning, and I'll catch you next time.